Peace. So I wanted to hop on this morning and talk about processing your emotions, because I've been doing a lot of that myself. If you follow me, you know I'm a yoga teacher, a Reiki healer. I work with women. I facilitate groups for women in the Washington, D.C. metropolitan area around healing. And sometimes I share some of that information on my socials. And I do offer one-on-one support and coaching to women who are processing trauma on their own and want support. Okay, so you guys, I wanted to hop on today because I'm usually over on TikTok. I'm not over here a lot because Instagram has a algorithm that I do not enjoy. You know, I could hop on here and said 656 of your followers are on here. And then like 25 people showed up. It's really odd how this system works, and I really don't enjoy it at all. I don't have that issue on TikTok, so I will miss that app when it's gone. It's just a different space. But let's get into this, processing emotions. All right, so I shared on TikTok the other day. I shared one of my yoga flows that I do every morning. I practice yoga for the most part every day, and I share my experience either through video, or I'm sharing something that I learned or I know as a yoga teacher, and I feel like it'll be helpful to other people. And one of the things that I shared last week was a video where I was practicing yoga, and I decided to do a lot of hip opening, some intense hip opening movement. And during that process of practicing hip opening, I had a flashback. And the flashback was of sexual assault. And processing that in yoga is very common, honestly. It's a very common occurrence. Lots of practitioners use yoga as a somatic practice to help people move through traumatic events. So it's not abnormal for you to be practicing yoga, and especially a deep hip opening movement, and to have a flashback of a traumatic event that you've had that involved that part of your body. And so that's what happened to me. I was explaining that over there, and how during that process, the emotion that I was filled with was so overwhelming. I had to just lay down on my mat and just accept that emotional response and accept the moment that I was in. And that way, my body could process those emotions, because they were completely physical at this point. In this experience of the physical emotion of my body feeling that thing again, and mental, and that, I know that I wasn't being SA'd at the time, but when you have an emotional flashback, it brings that energy to your body like you're having that experience all over again. And if you've had any trauma, then you know that sometimes even having a conversation about that experience can be so triggering emotionally that you have to find a space to process those emotions. So I wanted to talk about emotional processing because I realized from the comments that a lot of people didn't know that yoga could be used to dive into emotional processing in a different way, rather than talking, but a physical emotional processing. And B, that a lot of people did not want to practice yoga because they had an experience like that, and it was very off-putting for them, and it overwhelmed them. And C, that emotional processing can be difficult. It can be hard for a lot of people, especially because of the flashback experience, and that having emotional flashbacks to trauma in your life is very uncomfortable. It is a very uncomfortable experience, and I will not say it isn't. But I wanted to share how, even in that space where I'm overwhelmed and I have to lay on my mat and I don't have the command of my body at that moment, because it is filled with emotional emotional it's like very overwhelmed emotion, and I couldn't do what I wanted to do anymore. But how I just rested in that emotion, and that is because I understand emotional processing. And hey, cards and keys, I understand emotional processing, and that I use it a lot with myself and with my clients. And so I was able to walk myself through that process. And so I'm going to share with you what that process basically is. Okay. So emotional processing is basically you processing the emotions that you feel. And this is going to take a little bit of work, because we are not normally taught to process our emotions. We're taught to feel, react, right? So emotional processing allows you to feel the emotion and then walk through a process before reaction. So you're not just going boom, boom. You're going boom, and this thing happened and you felt some type of way, and now you're going to process why you're feeling this type of way before you react. And why do we do that? There's lots of different reasons, but most of it is because the way that we feel is just energy. It's just an indicator of an energy that we have welcomed into our space. It's an indicator of how we experience ourselves in that moment and how we experience the world in that moment. That's all it is, right? And so that indicator doesn't have to be something that changes our lives drastically. It could be something that makes us aware of what's happening for us in our mind, in our body, and in our spirit. Okay, so the first thing you want to do when you are processing your emotion is identify the emotion. And that's basically, what is this? What is this thing that I'm feeling, right? I don't think I have a paper one. I need to print those out. So one of the things that I use with my clients, and we'll be doing this tonight. This is one of the things I'll be doing tonight with the ladies that I work with, is a feeling wheel. I'll put it in my stories for anybody who's interested. And the feeling wheel is basically just what it is. It's a circle, and it has base feelings, which is like sad, happy, overwhelmed, depressed, like angry. And then it has other feelings, words that extend from those basic feelings out. So more words that will help you tap into what it is. Because we say we're sad, sometimes it's not that we're sad. We might be overwhelmed. We might be feel disparaged. We might feel other things, but we only have that one word. And so a feeling wheel allows you to have more access to more vocabulary to describe what you're accurately feeling, right? Instead of just the one word, right? And so that's the first thing you do, is you're going to identify what you're feeling. What am I feeling? And that's going to be like, take a deep breath, pull out your feeling wheel, really sitting with it. It's not a race. Like really sitting with, what am I feeling right now, right? So say you felt embarrassment. That's what you picked up, right? So then you would say, you're going to listen to that feeling. Why am I feeling this, right? So say you were in class or at work and you wrote a word and it was spelled the wrong way. Like one of those words that we always misspell, like tomorrow or necessary, something like that, right? And someone says, oh, you forgot the extra S or the other R, or there's not two C's, there's two S's in necessary. And you are an adult, so you feel embarrassed about this because you feel like, I should know this thing. I shouldn't not know this. And that's where our ego is coming in, but that's a whole nother conversation. So you're like, why am I feeling this? Why am I feeling embarrassed? And that's why you're feeling embarrassed, because you feel like you can't make mistakes. You feel like, I'm an adult, I should know how to spell tomorrow or necessary. And also, why is this person pointing this out, right? Right? So I feel like I'm being put on the spot. What is that? What is the feeling? Why am I feeling this feeling of embarrassment? So you're going to explore that. So once you identify the feeling and then explore and listen to the feeling and why you're feeling it, that's going to get you a little more grounded in what's happening in the process. And that way it'll help you not react as quickly, right? So Now I'm processing why I feel the way I feel. And it could be any of those things. It could be, I think I'm too smart to not know how to spell a word, or it's embarrassing because I'm an adult, or this person tried to put me on the spot. These are all valid reasons why I could feel embarrassment, right? All right. So now that we've identified the feeling, we know why we are feeling the feeling. What can I learn from this feeling? So we're going to interrogate the feeling. What is here for me? Because there's always something there for you when you are feeling something. A lot of times we think that it's the other person, right? So say if this is triggered by, thanks, babe. Say this is triggered by, I think that's more the filter though, but I appreciate you because it's real gloomy here, girl. Snow everywhere. Say we're triggered by something, right? And your triggers trigger you to do 4 basic experiences. All right. So it's fight, which is fight, flight, which is run, fawn, which is like try to make friends with the situation, or try to lessen the situation, and fight, fawn, fight, fight, flight, fawn, freeze. Okay, I couldn't remember the last one. Freeze, which is just to act like you don't know what's going on. It's like, like they can't see me, they can't hear me, they can't feel me. I'm not here. Thank you, babe. So yes, fight, flight, fawn, freeze. Those are your triggers that you experience when you have an emotion that feels quote unquote bad, right? So once you recognize what's going on, am I having a fawn moment, a freeze moment, a flight moment, a fight moment? And you can almost tell which ones are your go-to. Do you be ready to fight everybody who you feel like makes you feel embarrassed? Is that your go-to? Is your go-to to try to act like you don't know what's happening? What's your go-to when you are feeling something that is not comfortable for you to feel, right? So you identify that. All right, so I'm learning that I like to fight people when I feel embarrassed, right? So I might pick a fight. I might say something about them that is not kind. I might actually directly try to fight them, right? Or I might hold a grudge and create an uncomfortable situation for me and that person for however long a time that I decide to maintain that until it comes up and the fight is unavoidable, right? So there's a lot of ways that we express how we feel through actions, right? So we want to identify that immediately. What am I feeling through this embarrassment? Do I want to pop off? All right. What else am I learning about embarrassment for me? I don't like being embarrassed. Being embarrassed feels uncomfortable. So then I can identify that I don't like being uncomfortable. Why don't I like being uncomfortable? Interrogate it. Why don't I like being uncomfortable? I don't like being uncomfortable because, and go with it. The last time I was uncomfortable, this thing happened to me, right? So you might identify embarrassment and uncomfortability with something super traumatic that you didn't think right off the bat. Like maybe the last time you felt uncomfortable, you had to wear some ugly shoes or some off-brand shoes. I'm thinking of this. This is one of the stories I had from my childhood. My mom bought me some Pro Wings. I was happy with the Pro Wings, but they were not stylish to the rest of the kids in my 8th grade class. But they were new shoes, and I was happy because I didn't ever have new shoes as a kid. However, because they weren't Nikes, because they weren't Reeboks, because they weren't other name brand shoes, kids at school began to talk about me, and I felt embarrassed. And that is a memory of something that I identify embarrassment with for myself. Like that's a emotion or traumatic experience that I link embarrassment to for myself. That's one of the things, right? Or maybe sometime I didn't have money to pay for something. That's a linkage to embarrassment. So you're thinking about all of these things. You're processing all these things. When else have I felt embarrassed? How have I reacted when I felt embarrassed in the past? What did I do? What did I say? How did that work out for me? Was it to my good or was it to my detriment? Did I create an experience that was healthy for myself and the other people around me, or one that was unhealthy? This is all the questions you're going to interrogate yourself with, right? And I know that a lot of people are like, I don't have time to do that in the moment, but you do. And that's the point of this. That's the point of processing emotions, is that you do have time to do that in a moment. You do have time to do that in a moment. And how you do that is you just simply excuse yourself. You do not have to approach every situation that is thrown at you. I used to see this quote all the time, and I used to love it. And it's like, I do not have to answer every question that is asked of me. I do not have to do that. You do not have to answer everything in the moment. You can take a step back. Hey, I don't have the information right now. Let me think about it. I'm going to sit with this. I'm going to mull it over. You don't have to give everything that shows up in your space energy. That's the quote. You don't have to give everything that shows up in your space energy. Everything that shows up in your space doesn't deserve your energy. Some things are just for you to observe for yourself. They're just for you to process with yourself. But we are such a what do you call that? Community. I want to say community. Where we are do, right? Like it's so everything all our value is staked in what we bring to the table, what we do, what we're able to create in the moment, right? And that's not realistic. It's not realistic. We begin to look at ourselves like products, and that is harmful. It takes away from your intrinsic value, because your intrinsic value is priceless. It's priceless. And when you move away from that thought pattern and you start creating value, everything you do has to have value. Like this idea, this thought set that, oh, just because I'm here, I have to create value, or this is either. You being alive creates intrinsic value. That's it. That's it. You don't have to do anything to be valuable. That is a belief set that is based in capitalism, white supremacy, and it is killing us. It's killing us. Because sometimes just holding space is enough. Sometimes being a witness is enough. And I don't think we talk about that enough. And having all these social media platforms, I want to hop back on that a lot. That's why TikTok was the machine that it was, because people felt witnessed, people felt seen. And on these other apps, the majority of people do not get witnessed, they do not get seen, they do not get heard, they do not know they are intrinsically valuable. Why? Because only a few voices get pushed to the top, and those are the voices that are heard, and everybody else trickles down. And we know that trickle down economics and theories do not actually work. They don't work. And so, yes, you're processing. What am I learning? Right? Because why do you need to know what you're learning? Why do you need to know what you're learning from your emotions? Because those emotions are going to come up again. You think this is the last time you're going to feel embarrassed? I doubt it. Oh my God, I embarrass myself at least 2 times a day. And I know it's because I still get embarrassed. I still have the nerve to care about what other people think on some level. I'm like one of those people like trying to smooth walk up the up onto a curb and trip over the curb type person, or drop everything in the grocery store type person. And there don't really be nobody around, but it's just for me, like, get over yourself. Like, you're not that important in the big scheme of things. Like, everybody is living their life. Nobody is actually paying attention to you all the time. Chill, right? So then the last thing, after you process why you're feeling what you feel, then you act. And when I say act, how to resolve and how to move past this feeling. Not react to the person, not react to the situation, not react to the environment. You act. How do I use this information that I just gathered about me feeling embarrassed to enhance my experience here, right? To enhance my life, to have the life that I want, right? So if I know that I get easily embarrassed, then I may want to work on being embarrassed about things that are just human. Work on self-acceptance, right? So that's a sign for me to like say, okay, let me do some self-acceptance exercises, because embarrassment is a part of life. Sometimes you're not going to be in sync with the rest of the world. Sometimes you're going to be a little different. And sometimes you're just going to be the odd man out. And it's okay. It's not the end of the world. Embarrassment cannot kill you. You know what I mean? It might feel like it, but it totally cannot kill you. It's just a thing. And so how do I move forward knowing that these things will happen again? And how do I integrate a space into my healing, into my emotional wellness, where embarrassment is just a thing, where I'm like, well, I tripped up the step. I'm going to keep it moving. And I don't have to make this whole fight, flight, fawn, freeze trigger a part of my existence every time I have this experience, right? And then you can also use it, like I said, to go back and tie in those traumatic experiences that you had, that you feel are traumatic for you, that stick with you to this day. Trauma is defined by you. Trauma is defined by, if this thing is sticking with you and it's bothering you and it's eating at you, it's traumatic for you in a certain kind of a way, right? Everybody's trauma is different. Something that might have happened to me might not be traumatic to you. Something that might happen to you might not be traumatic to me, right? Because it might not affect us the same way, right? So you being joned on by your peers when you're a kid, and joned is like, I don't know if y'all from DC. Joned is like when somebody doing the dozens on you or talking about you, talking smack about you or whatever. So being joned on might not be a source of embarrassment for you, because you might not have cared what your peers thought of you as a kid. It might not be something that you carry to this day. So that might not be a traumatic experience for you to recall. It might be something more, different, and that's okay. I think that when we hear trauma, we think, oh, I have to align with this direct trauma in order for it to be traumatic, and that's not true. Right? We're all different. We're all having different experiences of ourselves. And it's okay if something is traumatic for you and it's not traumatic for someone else. And also, you don't have to qualify what felt traumatic for you. You don't have to try to make someone understand that. I think that's also a thing that we get caught up in, because we lack empathy. True empathy, not just sympathy. There's two totally different things. Sympathy is you identifying that something happened bad to someone and you feel bad for them. You feel pity in a sense for them. You feel sad for them. Empathy is you not just being able to put yourself in their place, but to truly empathize with the situation, not because you've had an experience like it, not because you even understand the experience, but because they're a human being and they deserve empathy, right? They deserve for you to connect to them in that way and to be with them through the experience. A lot of people do not truly experience that, because it's a very hard thing to do. Honestly, it's a very hard thing to walk through an experience with someone and be vulnerable with them and allow them to have the space to be who they need to be in that space, and not feel like you have to fix it or you have to take it on in any kind of way, but to just be, like I said, a witness to the experience. And yeah, so I hope this has helped if you are looking to figure out how to process emotions, especially as this year has come in super, super hot. There are so many things happening, like all throughout the world. Everything is on fire, and I mean that literally and figuratively. And we have got to learn how to process our emotions if we're going to be safe in this world that we are continually creating with one another. And I just wanted to share that with you. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll leave this. I think I'll leave this up. I don't mind leaving it up. I'll run over the things again for anybody who's just joining and want to know. I was talking about processing emotions. The first thing you're going to do is identify the emotion. What is the emotion? The second thing, listen to the emotion. Why am I feeling what I am feeling? Question the emotion. What am I learning from this emotion? What is it teaching me? Gathering facts, gathering information about yourself in reaction to that emotion. Also, I talked about triggers. The 4 main triggers are fight, flight, fawn, and flee. And also learning how you process emotion in as far as being triggered. Which one do you operate in? Or 2 do you operate in the most? Or do you operate in them all? And also, next is how to resolve the feeling, because we are not reacting to our feelings. That is not emotional intelligence. Resolving the feeling is emotional intelligence. And so resolving the feeling is, how do I deal with this, knowing that I could possibly have this feeling again, and how am I going to move through this feeling in the future, knowing that it could come up in the future, and how do I support myself? What does that look like in order to heal any traumas or anything I have attached to this feeling? All right, guys, thanks for hanging in there with me. I hope you have a beautiful Monday. I'm going to hop off here if y'all don't have any questions. And because I'm not like one of those people who just be sitting on the internet and talking to hear myself talk. I usually get on with an agenda, say what I need to say, and then I'm out of here. If y'all don't have any questions, I'm going to hop off. I appreciate you guys so much. If you want to do yoga with me, I have a whole virtual classroom full of yoga, and I actually have a class called Trauma Resolution Coaching, and it's all up, and it's basically what I do with the women that I work with to help them process emotions and that are attached to significant trauma. And honestly, I only suggest this for people who have had some level of therapy and know how to process, because I will not be there to support you. It's literally videos. But that is there if you are interested in doing more work on your own. And I walk you through the process that I walked all of the women that I work with through the process virtually. Okay. All right, guys. Thank you for the love. Thank you for the hearts. I appreciate you guys. And I'll see you next time, since y'all have no questions. Bye.